You know, sometimes the people we cast aside are the very ones who held us up the most. This is the story of a woman who walked away in silence, but carried a secret that would change everything. Her name was Martha. Martha stood at the edge of the living room, one hand gripping the handle of her old brown suitcase. The door clicked behind her. It was just a sound, wood on wood, but it echoed like thunder in her chest. She didn't cry, not when her son Derek told her she was a burden. Not when his wife Tanya called her lazy. Not even when the house she had once filled with lullabies and laughter turned cold and silent. She just walked. Down the street. Around the corner. To a cracked wooden bench 3 blocks away. She was 72 years old. No job. No home. And no one who wanted her, at least. That's what they thought. See, Derek had no idea. He thought she'd been fired from her part-time job at the church pantry. He didn't know she'd resigned, quietly, because her back just couldn't take it anymore. He didn't know the job wasn't her lifeline. And he definitely didn't know that tucked inside her old leather purse was a bank card linked to a trust fund worth $1.4 million. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's go back a little. Over 30 years ago, when Martha's husband died in a work accident, the insurance settlement wasn't much. But buried deep in the papers was a deed, land no one cared about. Out in the middle of nowhere, everyone told her to sell it. She didn't. Year after year, even when she was barely getting by, she scraped together just enough to pay the taxes. She held on to it, not for greed, not for gain, but because something told her it might matter one day, and one day it did. A developer came knocking, offered her a fortune for that worthless land. And just like that, Martha became a millionaire. But she didn't tell anyone, because Martha wasn't interested in showing off. She didn't want to rub anything in. She wanted to build something. Quietly. Softly. With dignity. So that's exactly what she did. That very night, after being kicked out, she stayed at a women's shelter. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to sit beside people who knew what it meant to be ignored, overlooked, cast aside. She shared her dinner. She listened. She smiled when no one else could. And in the weeks that followed, Martha found a little rundown cottage on the edge of town. She paid cash. 3 weeks later, under the name Grace Holdings, the walls were repainted. The leaks were fixed. The garden was planted with sunflowers, and slowly, it became something more: a shelter, a kitchen, a second chance, for strangers, for families, for anyone who needed a warm meal or a place to rest. She called it Martha's Table. 2 years passed. Derek's life fell apart, piece by piece. The house he was so proud of, foreclosed. The wife who once stood beside him, gone. His kids, taken with her. He hit rock bottom, fast. One cold winter day, he picked up a flyer from the library. Martha's Table, community meals, shelter, and support for families in need. He blinked. Martha. It couldn't be. But something pulled him there. Hope. Guilt. Maybe both. He found the place just before lunch. Painted walls. Fresh flowers by the door. A wooden sign carved with care. Inside, the smell of warm soup and baked bread wrapped around him like a memory. And behind the reception desk, there she was. Martha. His mother. She looked older, yes, but not broken. Stronger even. Like someone who had found something better than riches. Peace. Mama, he whispered. She stood slowly, came around the desk. He couldn't look her in the eye. I lost everything, he said, choking on the words. Tanya's gone. I don't have a home. I didn't know where else to go. She didn't say anything at first. She let the silence do the work. Then, softly, come inside. You look cold. They sat at a little table, just like the one she used to set for him as a boy. He looked around, still stunned. This is yours. She nodded. I thought you had nothing. I had peace, she said, and enough. He couldn't stop the tears. Why didn't you tell me? She looked into his eyes. Would it have changed anything? He didn't answer. She continued. I needed to know who would stand by me when I had nothing to offer. And in that moment, he understood. She didn't just build a building. She built truth, the kind that shows you who really sees you. From that day forward, Derek changed. He volunteered at Martha's Table, hammered nails, served meals, swept floors. But most importantly, he healed. Every Friday, he and Martha sat together on the porch and watched the children play. One evening, she handed him an old envelope. Inside was the deed to the house he once threw her out of, and a voided check for the full $1.4 million, now framed. You don't owe me anything, she said. But now you know what happens when love comes before pride. He cried again. This time, not out of shame, but gratitude. Years later, when Martha passed in her sleep, the town showed up. Not just family, people from shelters, churches, schools, volunteers, friends. No gold casket, no headlines, just stories. Stories of a woman who gave everything when she had nothing. And Derek? He stood at the front of the room, holding her apron in his hands. My mother, he said, once left a house with just a suitcase and a quiet heart. And in that silence, she built something greater than any of us ever knew. Behind him, carved above the entrance to Martha's table, were her final words to the world. The doors that close behind you can never match the ones you open for others. And Derek? He became the man his mother always believed he could be. Not because she gave him money, but because she gave him grace. Speech balloon, if this story touched your heart, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We share true, emotional stories every week. Stories of love, redemption, and quiet strength. Leave a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing your voice. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching. Globe showing Europe, Africa, Red Heart.